Good evening and welcome to the meeting of the West Craven Area Committee, a virtual meeting. We're spread throughout West Craven. We'll do introductions in a minute, just to explain that this is a working meeting of a Pendle Council committee, and we have to abide by various rules. I don't think we've got any speakers from members of the public, so I can forget that bit of the agenda. I need to take declarations of interest, and this is where councillors have any prejudicial peculiar interest in items. Could anybody indicate if they have?
No.
No. Right. Having got that over with, we'll do introductions. And my name is David Whip. I'm a councillor here in West Craven. I chair the area committee, and I will pass over. I'll call people in, and this just is a check that they're all up and running. So can I start with Councillor Hartley?
Hi everybody, I'm Ken Hartley, councillor for Craven Ward in Barnoldswick.
Joanne.
I'm Joanne Nichols, a committee administrator at Pendle Council.
Jennifer.
Yes, good evening everybody. I'm the Pendle councillor for Craven Ward. Thank you.
Marjorie.
Marjorie Adams, Pendle councillor for Coats Ward, Barnoldswick.
Thank you. Mike.
Yes, good evening everybody. My name's Mike Goldthorpe. I'm the councillor, Pendle councillor for Earby.
Peter.
Yeah, my name's Peter Hampson. I represent Earby Town Council.
Thank you very much. You look like a police mugshot, Peter. I'm sorry to say, and you have that sort of faded look about you as well, so I don't know whether it's a special effect that you're working with, but well done.
It's the lighting.
Okay, we'll let you off. Here we are, Rosemary.
Hi everyone, I'm Rosemary Carroll, the Ward Councillor for Earby.
And Rosemary, you've managed to get a very crystal clear image of yourself with a blur background, but we've still got that noise on your microphone, so I'm not quite sure what that is, but it's been there for weeks now.
It's the fish tank in the workshop.
Ah, maybe the fish will have to.
In it.
You could switch them off for half an hour.
Yeah,
they wouldn't expire, would they?
Not a chance.
Okay, David.
Please.
Good evening, David Walker, Environmental Services Manager, Area Coordinator.
Tom.
Good evening, I'm Tom Whip. I'm a councillor for Coats Ward.
Thank you very much. Now, I know we've got apologies from Councillor Jane Mills, who's unwell this evening. Joanne, are there any further apologies, please?
No, but we do have Colin Carter here.
Where's Colin?
End of the corner.
Oh, Colin, you're hidden away. Sorry about that.
That's right. Good evening. Colin Carter, Ward Councillor for Earby.
Thank you very much. Right. Well, those that see are here, and those that aren't. Just to point out that Peter, with his special mugshot effect video, is a representative of Town Council. He can take part fully in the meeting, including moving and seconding things, but is not allowed to vote. So if we take votes rather than things being by consensus, Peter won't be asked to cast his vote for or against proposals. I think that's all the introductions that we need to make. I'm going to make a start on the agenda now. The second item on the agenda is public question time. We don't have any notified tours, and unfortunately the live chat on our YouTube channel is disabled, so people can't submit them online live whilst the meeting is going on. But that's something that I'll ask our technical people to look at, so that people could perhaps participate in that way. So I'm going to move on to the minutes of the last meeting.
Apologies, Chair. Councillor Tom Whip had his hand up.
Oh, I do apologise. I'll have to adjust my screen. Tom.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I was going to say exactly what you said then. I think we should have a way for members of the public to raise questions during this 15-minute period. And there are ways to do it. We experimented with the live chat on Bunnelswick Town Council in some of our first live stream meetings. And it's very simple. If people comment on the live chat on the YouTube page, send them in beforehand. I think as long as people understand that they have the option to, make sure that they can have their representations here.
Thank you very much. So we will take that up with the powers that be and hopefully get things changed for the future. I'm going to go on now. I think I've asked for acquiescence to the minutes. Is there anybody saying that the minutes from the last meeting are inaccurate? I've got Ken who'd put his hand up.
No, I was just going to say we haven't formally proposed them yet, but I propose acceptance.
Okay, that's moved, and can I see a seconder then? Thank you very much. Any comments at all on the accuracy of the minutes?
No.
Nope. In that case, we'll take those as read, and no doubt in due course I'll put a virtual signature on them, or some magical means or other. We're going to go on to policing and community safety issues. We don't have any representative here from the police. Obviously, it's a long way to travel to West Craven, but we do have the crime statistics which they have provided, and I think Tom's going to put those up on screen for us so that we can discuss those. Thank you very much, Tom. Could I ask if there are any comments or questions on those figures, such as they are? Ken, are you wanted to come in?
Not truly on the figures themselves. I think that they're what one might expect, recognising the thinness of the thin blue line at the moment.
In terms, just to explain the table to people, the plus / minus column at the end there is a comparison between this year's figures and for the same period last year. So Tom's just moved the screenshot down to the July 2019 figures, which is a comparison. So it gives us a guide as to whether things are the same, improving, or getting worse. Right, if there aren't any comments, oh, sorry, Mike, you wanted to come in on the figures? Mike Goldthorpe?
I'll just unmute. Yeah, just to say the weather in the last week or so hasn't been particularly good, but we have they've been going up month in, month out in comparison. So I think Ken's absolutely right. I don't think there's anything new here. The trend is up without a doubt, and we're also getting continued issues, but we'll come on to talk to that. But I think until we can get to chat to our police contacts and give a bit more detail, we're weaving without weft a bit, I would say. But there we go.
You. Ken, I've got you.
Thank you, Chair. It's just to follow up from the minutes of the last meeting where we asked our police colleagues to make some commentary. And it was a question for Joanne, really. Have we heard anything? That we asked them, in fact, in the minutes to give us a commentary on the dramatic increase in antisocial behaviour and particularly the antisocial behaviour in parks.
Yes, I did email the police, but I didn't do that until a week or 10 days ago. So I didn't do it straight after the meeting. So maybe they've not had a chance to look at it yet.
Okay.
As soon as I get a response, I can circulate it to members.
Thank you, Chair.
Just to say that I have met with Scott Boast and Andy Cartwright in different meetings, but the meetings have all been revolving around COVID-19 and the measures in Pendle. So it's not really been appropriate to pick up on issues like that. One of the problems with virtual meetings is that you don't have that opportunity as easily to network with people when you're going with the meeting or leaving the meeting, but I'll try and take it up with them in due course. Peter, I've got you indicating you want to speak.
Yeah, I was just wondering if things are going to the police, like the email. I've had an email from a resident today. She actually called the police on Sunday regarding the use of a pellet gun and the person firing the pellet gun at the members of public from a Pendle Council play area on Rushton Avenue. So,
is it a Pendle Council play area or a Earby Town Council play area, Peter?
I think it's an Earby Town Council because we've taken over the running of the play areas, but Pendle Council do maintain it.
Yeah.
A PCSO did go up there to speak to the perpetrators, and they just carried on and totally ignored him. So I'm trying to request that, if possible, can we try and see if we can get a bit more patrols up in the area?
Okay. I'll comment on that. My understanding of the situation when PCSO Neil Waldin went to the Russian Avenue playground is that the I'll say children, but some of them were quite well into the teens, when he eventually asked them to disperse, they did disperse, and I understand that parents with younger children have been taking the younger children, supervising and preventing the more wayward actions of the older children from retaking control of the play area. So I think to some extent the answer lies with residents to exercise surveillance is perhaps not the right word, but to have casual observation of what's going on and challenging inappropriate behaviour. In terms of additional police presence, Peter, you weren't at the last meeting, but I reported that our request for an additional PCSO, well, not additional, but a replacement PCSO, following the departure of Mark Hyde through retirement, has been agreed, and a further officer is due to be imposed from the end of this month. So Ken referred to the thin blue line earlier on. I'm not saying that it's getting very much thicker, but at least the neighbourhood policing team will go from 2 people to 3 people for the whole of West Craven. I've got Councillor Tom Witt wanted to come in, and I think we've moved away from the figures and we are talking about local issues. Tom.
Well, it's a mix, really, Chair. I just have a question regarding COVID-19 crime figures. With the government writing into law fines being issued for illegal gatherings in houses and gardens and etc. Will we be getting figures for the amount of these incidents reported to the police? Will they be tracked like the rest of the crimes that we have there today?
Well, thank you, Tom. There's me thinking we were going to have a COVID-free meeting, and given that I have, you know, sort of at least one COVID meeting every day, and sometimes more than one, I'd be delighted if we could keep it as COVID-free as possible.
Sorry to disappoint.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not aware whether the government have actually published the regulations that they said they were going to introduce in a tweet last Thursday at 2.5 hours to midnight. But if they haven't published the regulations, I don't think the police can actually enforce anything because there's no legal basis for them to do so. My view is that we depend upon people acting responsibly, and that we shouldn't be depending upon enforcement to see that things are happening, because quite frankly, enforcement of what happens in people's front rooms or what happens in private gardens is probably impossible, and it'll only be the grosser infringements that end up being taken to task. The police have issued a statement. There was a press conference, I think last Saturday morning, and they spelt out that they would take action if necessary. I think we, all of us need to bear in mind that the virus is still very active. There are a lot of vulnerable people in our communities, and that we deserve people showing some respect to the requirements to keep the distance, wash the hands, and all those sorts of things. Peter, I've got you raising your hand.
Yeah, just a quick one, David. Listening to the news today, it has become legislation and will be enforceable from midnight tonight.
Thank you very much. That's helpful. I'll have to read the regulations now to find out what they're actually proposing. But whether it'll line up with what they said they were going to do, I hope. But you never know, do you? Okay. Can we just talk about general issues? Peter highlighted the problems at Rushton Avenue Play area, and I mean, this is a hardy annual. No, it isn't. It's a perennial. But the problems of misbehaviour, not entirely by teenagers, but sometimes by young adults in our parks, remains a concern. And I think the police have had reports of several instances in the last month that we are all concerned about, and we need to make sure that as effective action as is possible is taken to try and curb some of that behaviour. Mike.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I agree totally with what you've just said. It's fair to say that there are certain individuals and groups of people taking advantage of the fact that our police are, as you would put it, a thin blue line. It hasn't gone away. Antisocial behaviour in parks, muggers, play areas, and also boy racers going around, particularly in Earby. A lot of motorbike activity. It's there. It's difficult to expect our residents to try and stop this, but you're right. It holds on all of us to try and do something about this, but it is still there, and I think it's probably worse now than it has been because so many people are staying indoors, working from home and so forth. So there's more activity out there, and the parks are great places. The Rushton Avenue one, as it started off, is fueled by youth, not children, finding somewhere to hang out and create mischief. It alternates between the waterfalls and other remote areas, should I suggest. So yeah, it is a problem, and it worries me that we could have either injured children or injured residents if we're not careful. So it does really need flagging up. I know the police have a lot more to do at the moment, but this part of the world is very vulnerable to that. Thank you, Chairman.
Thanks, Mike. In terms, no, I'll leave that.
Councillor Purcell has indicated she wishes to speak, Chair.
Right. Jennifer. Now then. Jennifer, you're muted. You need to unmute yourself.
Sorry, I've done that now. Sorry about that. I'm on the same lines as everybody else is saying about antisocial behaviour. It's getting out of hand. I mean, these children have had nearly 5 months off school and what have you. Parents can't. I can understand where some parents are coming from and what have you, but it's affecting the residents of our towns. I mean, we've got the parks where they're going down and they're stopping there till early hours of the morning with these cars with these large radio things going off and blasting. And I've had a few phone calls complaining about it, the drugs that are going down there. And my main concern is about during the day, maybe in the morning, some parents might say, oh, we'll go down to the park. And it only needs one child to pick one of these small cylinders or whatever they're laying around. But I totally agree, David. We need something improving at the moment, but we can't do so much because of they're all out on with the coronavirus. Thanks, David.
Well, I'm not sure that they are necessarily. I mean, normal police work continues to be done. One thing that I'll finish this off on is a plea to everyone to register with Lancashire Talking, and this is the new police facility to use digital means to get messages out to people, but importantly for residents, it's a way for each one of us to tell the police what our priorities are, where there are particular problems that are occurring, and to fill in a survey to give them further details. So if each one of us join Lancashire Talking, encourage other people to join Lancashire Talking, the police would have a very clear picture of the areas of concern, whether it be antisocial behaviour, criminality and the like. And the police could then direct resources to address the issues that are of concern to local people. So, you know, please do that if there is anybody watching, if they could make a point of that as well. I think that would help. Having said that, can we move on to the next item on the agenda?
Yeah.
I'm not seeing anybody else indicating wanting to speak. So we're going to go on to planning matters now. And we don't have any planning applications. We have given Mr. Watson the night off. We didn't require him to attend. So there are some planning issues still on the agenda. First of all, we've got planning appeals. And this is a report that tells us about new appeals that have been notified, and the outstanding appeals and appeal decisions. So there are I think 4, which we are told are new appeals. Not quite sure that this is entirely up to date. And then there are 3 decisions set out on the back page as well. Can I ask if there is any questions or comments on those? Ken.
Thank you, Chair. Comment is 190024, which is the first notification of the new appeals. That has been decided and the appeal was allowed.
Yeah.
The other 3 are still up for grabs, I think, at the moment.
Yeah, thank you very much for that. Can we note that report?
Note it.
Noted.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Enforcement action, we have a report there. Can we note that?
Note it. Yeah.
Thank you very much. And then we're going to go on to the capital programme, which is one of the substantive items on the agenda. Insofar as the funding earmarked for Bonalswick, we have a proposal that we're going to put on the table. And I think Councillor Tom Whitby, you're speaking to this. So let me just find the correct document. He says, have I got the right one up? No. Could I ask, have I got the right document on display, please?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah?
Yep.
Tom, can I bring you in?
Yep. So I think I'll start off with the smaller of the project, the mill race at Valley Gardens. I attended a site visit with Ian Holgate and Gareth Aspey, the drainage engineer for Pendle. And we were looking at the state of the mill race and the several leaks that run its course. Yes, and Gareth Aspey, the engineer, has recommended that it should all be dredged out and repointed, made watertight again. And we're requesting that this be funded from the capital programme from the area committee.
Thank you very much. We're going to take these on block, Tom. So, I mean, if you want to continue speaking to the proposal.
Yeah. I think I'll just continue upwards. The next one is £5,000 towards the fence-off area at Victory Park. This was proposed, I don't know how many years ago now. But we have a similar one at Letcliffe Park. This is because of the new regulations around walking dogs off leads. We want to provide a space where people can do that comfortably. And as well as this, the same area, I and several others from the Bonalswick in Bloom group met with, I can't remember her name now.
Alison Plackett.
Alison Plackett, yes, thank you. Who's an expert in biodiversity. And we want to work with her to improve the biodiversity of Victory Park and do this as part of that scheme. The next project is the contribution towards the ramps at Victory Park. This has been brought on because of some recent damage to one of the ramps at Victory Park, as well as some young adults reaching out to me, wanting to form a volunteer group to maybe raise money to make improvements to the skate park, and for this to sort of help that along, and applying for grants elsewhere and support from the town council. The last part is a project at Letcliffe Park again. And this is an extension of a set paved footpath to run along a new hedge line which was planted late last year. For the sets will be taken from the town square, where the works are currently ongoing, in the work to widen the footpath there, and then relaying at Leckliffe Park to extend the current set paved footpath.
So that's the set paved path that's already there. Obviously not taken this week, but earlier this year in February, I think it was. So the intention there is to renew the. It's just as well I've got this up on screen because I've just got a cat traversing the camera at the moment. Come on. Yeah, so the sets here would have the vegetation taken out of them and be regrouted, and then beyond the top of the existing path, that would be extended using the sets from Albert Road, perhaps supplemented by some from elsewhere. So does that bring us to the end of the proposals? And just for the benefit of anybody watching, here, this is JJ. Say hello, JJ. You going to say hello?
8 live left.
Are you going to say hello? No, not stopping. Oh dear. It jumped on keyboard, so I'm not quite sure what's going on now. Right. Okay, so Tom's put forward a proposal which is applicable to the Bonolswick allocation within the capital programme. Can I ask if that is seconded, please?
I'll second that, David.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer.
That's a good scheme.
Okay.
Sorry, Chair.
Ken?
Just for completeness, although I have a number in front of me, nobody yet has mentioned how much this lot is projected to cost. So since we do have members of the public listening, hopefully, or whatever, before we vote on this, can we all appreciate how much money we're asking for from the allocation, please? Okay,
well, the total allocation in respect of Bonolswick for the area committee is 22,440. We've already allocated two sums of £3,000. One £3,000 is towards reopening, promoting the Bonolswick town centre. The second £3,000 is in respect of premises improvement grants, again for the town centre in Bonolswick, which leaves us with 16,440, and the totality of the proposals put forward add up to 15,500. So unallocated within the Bonolswick part of the spend is £940.
Chairman, can I just ask for individual figures for the projects, please? Tom had them, I think, in the sheet.
Yeah, Joanne, I'll email that through to you.
Okay.
Okay. I mean, well, I'll just run down it again. I'll put it up on screen. I'm always worried about putting the wrong document up because the icon is so small that I might be sharing something that's inappropriate. So in the order that Tom read them out, 1,500 for the mill race, 5,000 towards the fenced off dog exercise area, etc. 5,000 towards ramps at Victory Wheel Park, and £4,000 towards the extension of the set paved footpath and improvement of the existing set paving up there. All of those amounts may be supplemented by funds from elsewhere, so the town council may be contributing, and there may be some grant assistance for some of the schemes as well. So the amounts that are there aren't necessarily the total of the cost of the project. Is that clear?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Now, every time I put something up on screen, I've got to come back to the people indicating. Rosemary, are you wanted to come in at this point and we'll take a vote on the Bonalswick issues?
Take a vote on Barlick ones first.
Okay. Well, can I see if anybody dissents? Is there anybody against? I won't take a roll call if no. So we'll accept that proposal, and I'll go to Rosemary. Councillor Carroll.
Right, yeah, I'll move the recommendation for the Eby Town Council for the Aston Lane Green for £1,800. And I'll also move the bid from Tom Partridge for the drainage improvements to footpath 49.
Thank you. Okay, I'm happy to second those. In terms of the footpath work, I mean, this is an issue I picked up well during the wetter months earlier this year, and the county council will contribute half the cost of the drainage work so as to improve that path. And as we've seen elsewhere, when these sorts of schemes have been carried out, it has resulted in very effective action to improve the nature of the ground underfoot. So very much welcome that. Mike, can I bring you in, please?
Yeah, just to say, Chairman, I first reported it, and Tom Partridge issued a code for it. It was reported way back by a member of a gentleman who lives at Wencliffe there. It's been going on for some time, so it's good to hear that Lancashire's come up with some money towards it.
Yep, excellent. So if there are no further contributions, can I ask if everybody's in favour of that? Is there anybody who wants to vote against? I'm taking that is carried. Thank you very, very much. Can we move the other parts of this report, which is probably just for noting? Sorry, we just had a cat trampling on the keyboard. So we're noting the schemes that are already included. Okay, can we move on? And the next item is the scheme of reopening Bonalswick and Eby town centres. You recall at the last meeting we outlined the sorts of measures that we're taking in Bonalswick in conjunction with the town council. Representatives from Eby indicated that they were minded to do the same sort of thing. We did leave it to see if there was any progress with discussions in Eby. So I'm just going to ask Eby representatives if this has gone any further, or is the intention to piggyback on the work that is currently going on, and perhaps to share resources, so producing some photographs. Great, that's the phone ringing. I'll just get rid of that. So So if we get a commissioner photographer, that can be done across West Craven rather than just in Barnoldswick. And if we produce hard copy publications or online content and things like that, again, that can be done on a shared basis. I've got Mike indicating. Mike.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I'm certainly not aware of. I think we discussed it last time that we would go ahead and piggyback with the VAT of what's happening in Barnoldswick. There hasn't been much enthusiasm, I've got to say. Maybe Peter and Colin may say it's different than that in getting involved across the piece. However, I've got to tell you that the leaflets have gone out. They've gone round the patch. Large proportion of the high street was already open anyway, but it is a lineal shopping area. One or two still to come open. They've got open, like the barbers and what have you. Some of the service industries are still there. Perhaps need to do something. But it seems to be going all right, and anything we can piggyback on will save time and effort without a doubt.
Okay, thank you. Ken.
Thank you, Chair. It's an issue, actually, I think, on this that has only cropped up in the last few days. And I think you quite rightly picked up on Facebook earlier today that one of the perhaps unintended consequences of the Eat Out scheme is working very much to the detriment of takeaways that are not involved in the scheme. And people who are inclined not to prepare their own food are swapping heavily to the cafes and ignoring the takeaways that they used to frequent, because of course they get the discount of 50% in a cafe, but they don't get a discount of 50%. So therefore, can I ask that our reopening task force formally recognise this problem exists and thinks how it might help in any way during the reopening schemes? I'm pretty sure that there aren't any grants that are directly applicable to the takeaways, but it is really hurting them, and I'm pretty sure that it was an unintended consequence of starting up the scheme, and can I therefore just sort of log that we're in our deliberations of what we might or might not do, can we recognise that problem exists?
Yeah, I think that's a point well made, Ken. I mean, this morning I just stuck my head round one of our sandwich shops in Barnoldswick doorways and said how were they doing, and the response was not enthusiastic. They were doing okay until Eat Out to Help Out came in, and they've just seen a lot of their trade go to the cafes because people are getting better value for money there. But it does seem very, very unfortunate that such establishments are suffering because of the government scheme. So I think, yes, locally we can look at any measures that we can take to promote them. But I think the other issue is that we ought to make representations through Pendle Council at the centre to Andrew Stevenson and to government to say, well, look, this is unfair, it's unfortunate, and it could lead to business failures if there isn't some remedy put in place. So I hope committee members would be agreeable with that.
I would certainly be happy to add that to what I just said.
Yeah.
That we ought to be writing to our MP.
Okay. Are there any further comments on this issue? If not, Peter, can I just bring you in, because Mike was referring to whether Earby Town Council wanted to be an active participant in this work. We did invite the Town Council to take point in a partnership arrangement to help enliven our town centres. Has that been discussed at all, do you know, and is there any positive outcome?
There hasn't really, because we've only just had our first meeting at the end of July through Zoom. Obviously, if people don't know, the offices are really too small. Our clerk is working from home, which is out of the area, up Laneshire Bridge. So consequently, we've tried to get to look at things, but I think, and I'm talking of experience here, because my partner Susan does have a shop in Earby, and it's the size of the shops. She's done everything that needs to be done, just with a few signs, because basically most of the shops in Earby, if you get 2 people in, they're full anyway. So consequently, she's got a sign on the door that basically says no more than 2 people in.
Yeah.
There's a natural one-way system. So, you know, and to be honest with you, she doesn't have that many people going in anyway, because most of her revenue is from grooming. So she has people coming in the morning with the dogs, and then in the afternoon. And she's got the obligatory sign saying that she's done the course. So, and I think when I walk down the high street, that's most of it. I haven't looked at the industrial units on Boot Street to see what precautions they've got. So obviously there's the gym on Boot Street, but I take it that the Pendle Council will be looking at that more closely, that they are enforcing the regulations.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, in terms of the council's activities, I mean, there's various strands to this, but paramount is the need to ensure that reopenings are safe, and that we're not contributed to any transmission of the disease by the activities that are taking place. So the environmental health team are visiting businesses. I mean, there was, the last figure I saw was several hundreds of businesses have been visited. Not only are they doing that during the day, but they are doing evening and weekend visits to establishments like pubs, so that there's some regulation of the activities that are going on there. And on the other hand, the other strand is promoting businesses, trying to get more trade for people, and that can take a variety of forms. It may not be people physically going into a bricks and mortar shop, but perhaps supporting delivery systems, so that places that deliver can do so easily, using online ordering, so that again people don't have to physically visit a shop and the like. And something that Councillor Tomwip and I were looking at earlier on today was the way in which digital technology can assist with keeping a register of people using such as cafes, restaurants, hairdressing salons and the like, you know, rather than people having paper copies of you know, who's visited and what their contact details are, having something a bit more secure or a bit more accessible in case that contacts do need to be traced at any point in time. So, I mean, there's a lot going on, and this is the same phone number ringing, but I'm not going to answer them. So I'm going to bring Ken in, and then I'm just going to mute myself for a moment. I might answer him.
Thank you very much, Chair. One of the things that seems to be emerging tonight that relates to this issue is I understand that the government is proposing the establishment of a COVID safety rating system, similar to the hygiene rating system, whereby premises are assessed for their COVID safety rating, which is something that we may well need to get involved with at a local level, maybe even if it's just advice on how to improve their COVID safety, or quiet words as to whether or not they are fully complying with the existing legislation, never mind the new COVID safety regulations, which I understand are in the pipeline. Just something to think about, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Well, I'm sorry, Ken. I did miss the first part of this because I did answer the phone call, and it was somebody wanting Lee Dewarden. So why on earth they're ringing me, I'm not right sure, but I've given them short shrift. Just picking up on the last part of your contribution there. Obviously, the environmental health people are going around. When they had visited just over 300 properties, I think there were 13 business premises that did not comply with the COVID secure arrangements. They were all due for a revisit a few days after the first visit. And if people are willfully failing to adhere to the restrictions, the regulations, then the government have given powers to local authorities to take action to close them down. Obviously, nobody wants to see that happening, but it is an option. It's a tool in the tool chest if need be. I've got Mike indicating he wants to come in. So, Mike.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'm a bit alarmed, I've got to say. Ken's absolutely right about this, and I find it difficult to understand. You're either COVID safe or you're not. Now, it's one thing having a traffic light system on health and safety in a business. I would have thought there can only be one traffic light in terms of COVID safety, and that is green. But we'll no doubt look at the detail of that and comment about it. I would certainly hope that Pendle is fully involved in understanding what that means, because I can't see anybody wanting to go into a business of any type that is not fully COVID safe. Whether it's green, it's got to be green. Amber's no good. So yeah, I mean, it's a point worth noting. I think Ken's right. We do need to look at this in some detail when we get it, and be absolutely certain that it's right. Thank you.
I mean, I have to say, I mean, there's quite a bit of ambiguity when we've got the health secretary saying one thing on Friday afternoon, which turns out to be refuted by the Department for Health later in the day. And I think people are rightly confused because of the confusing messages that are coming out. In terms of the COVID security of premises, one thing that we, Pendle Council and Lancashire County Council, have been very keen to do is for premises to have a display of how many people ought to be in those business premises at any one time. And I think I'm just trying to pick my words here, but there have been quite a few examples of premises that have not abided by those restrictions, and I had quite a few reports at the weekend, which, you know, environmental health, the police and the licensing team would be following up. But I mean, it's that sort of area where you can see things that aren't happening properly, and I perfectly understand people's desire to socialise, meet with the friends and everything else like that. But there are 20 positive cases of COVID-19 that have been added to Pendle's figures today, and that means that the rate of infection in Pendle is rising quite steeply, and we're not going to be coming out of the intervention measures anytime soon at that rate. So it's incumbent upon everybody to do what they can. And I know across in West Craven, people may say, well, you know, we don't have much of the COVID-19. You know, if we get one case in West Craven, that could spread to another 10 people before it's picked up, and those 10 could go to another 10, and we could have an outbreak on our doorsteps within a matter of days. So it's absolutely crucial that we do everything that we can to protect people, those most vulnerable amongst us, and prevent the transmission of the disease, and hope that the government measures will eliminate the disease through effective testing, tracking, tracing and isolation of those who are infected. Anyway, I'll get off my high horse now and ask if there are any further comments on this. If not, can we note what's just been reported, affirm the piggybacking of the EAB operation with Bon Alswick, so that we mirror what's going on and issue joint publications and the like. Is that okay? Or is that too much of a simplification of what we've just said? Yeah, okay. Can I thank you very much for that. We're going to go on to the West Craven Flood Defence and Resilience update. Excuse me, I'm just going to have a sip. So this is a report that we had requested a while ago, and it's updating us on the various actions that have been taken. And I'm going to try and run through this by referencing the report, and if I can, I'll put some pictures up on screen as we go through as well. So the report begins with the European Social Investment Fund, Structural Investment Fund, which Pendle Council applied successfully for £635,000 a while ago. The clock is ticking on the investment of that fund, but we have made excellent progress with the Environment Agency. I met with the chairman of the Yorkshire Regional Coastal Committee. Seems like an eternity ago now, but it was earlier this year, in an effort to get all the match funding in place. And with a modest contribution from Pendle Council, we are able to go ahead with phase 2 of the work. And phase 2 of the work will involve, why do these keep moving around? Sorry, right, will involve raising the parapet along this wall here on Boot Street, which will prevent water flooding out of New Cut along here and then into the properties along Boot Street Mill, and there'll also around the back of the mill be a concrete wall built, which will prevent the water coming in the mill from the opposite direction. So that's one part of the phase 2 works. The other part of the phase 2 works is to put an embankment along the section of the railway embankment near lane ends to stop water spilling out and coming through the embankment bridge and then coming onto Skipton Road and affecting the Albert Street, sorry, not Albert Street area, Victoria Street area, and the like. So that's now got all its funding in place, with Pendle Council guaranteeing gap funding if it's necessary. At the moment, we're just putting in £20,000, but we could end up, or we have signalled that we could put in more than that if necessary to make the scheme happen. And so long as that work is carried out in a timely fashion, we will be able to draw down the ESIF money, and everything should be hunky-dory. The scheme does involve the closure of that little side street going on to Victoria Road, and it's been consulted with ward councillors. Everybody's agreeable for that to take place, and I'm not aware that there's any objections to the legal order that will need to be made to bring that into effect. So that seems to be going okay. The modelling work that the Environment Agency carried out indicated a third phase of work, which is costed at something like 4.8 million, and this would be to create upstream storage in the Burley playing field area. At the moment, that isn't funded. Colin Mellors, the chairman of the Yorkshire Regional Flood and Coastal Committee, did give his personal assurance to me that he would do everything he could to get the funding agreed for that project, and that's one that we still got to push for, but as yet unfunded. Hopefully we can get the wherewithal to get that one off the stocks soon as well. The report goes on to talk about the upland management, which is being funded by the Leeds City region, and we had a pilot project which was carried out at Marlfield Farm. I think there are other landowners that are interested, and they are looking to extend that work to many more acres, and it involves woodland planting, creating leaky dams and the like. The report then goes on to talk about property level resilience grants, and you'll recall that unspent funding was which wasn't claimed by individual householders, was applied to buy community flood resilience things. And here we've got an example of the deployable flood barriers, which Peter and Rosemary will be very familiar with, because they did get quite a few outings back in February. That's at Lane Ends, where you can see it's holding back maybe 3 feet of water, and that's a picture taken in the middle of the night. So you can see, in the right circumstances, those are very effective at holding water. the other work that is partly being funded from the community resilience money now is the installation of a sump on Victoria Street so as to be able to pump water out of there more effectively. I'm going to pause at that point because I'm going to go over to the Bonalswick projects. I just ask if anybody wants to contribute from maybe Mike.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, just to take you back a bit to item 13 on the current situation, and it's stating that this is EAB, of course. Schemes A and B are expected to commence in early 2021. You did mention, of course, that contributions from Pendle was dependent on an early start to these schemes. With our past knowledge and involvement on these, there is a history of these schemes getting postponed or delayed. Are we confident enough that the pressure you've got them on is that they will start in early 2021, and we're not talking about this, but in September 2021? That's one. And just to say that the scheme number 16 at Marfield with the leaky dams and everything else, it has had an effect without doubt on what we call Wentcliffe Beck up here, and is Earby Beck further down. Without doubt, if that hadn't been in place, the top end of this of the Beck, immediately below the youth hostel and waterfalls, would have broached and would have caused further problems down at Kedbridge, without a doubt. So 2 points there from Earby's perspective. Thank you, Chairman.
Okay, on the first issue, hang on a minute, we've got another cat now. Yes, so this cat is Flopsy, and as you can see, not to be held, well, not by me anyway. Oh, she's just going to, are you going to sit there? That's good, all right. On the first point, I'm as confident as I can be that the Environment Agency are on track to commence the work. I mentioned the legal orders required to close up that side street. If there is any objections to that, that could throw a spanner in the work, but they are currently sticking to the timetable that they set out several months ago, indeed, if not last year, which would lead to the being on site in calendar year 2021. On the second thing with Malfield Farm, I think you're right, you know, that has made a marginal improvement, and when you're talking about, you know, being inches off flooding, every marginal improvement that you can make is a good one. The thing there is that to be truly effective, you need thousands of acres under such management, and you know, for Earby, because it's a rapid response one, you know, you're looking perhaps at an unrealistic level of natural flood management to be able to reduce the risk to an acceptable level. So other interventions are needed. In terms of the Leeds flood alleviation scheme, which is, that's what it's part of, that's what's funding it. Obviously, they're looking at the whole of the upper air catchment, and you know, maybe talking about hundreds of thousands of acres under natural flood management to make a meaningful difference to them. But you know, every field that has work carried out in it is one field to the good, and one slight reduction in the risk that people on Water Street have every time we get heavy rain. Are there any further comments or questions about the position in Earby?
Chairman, if I may, of course, I should caveat what I've said, because we all know that the issues of COVID, and I know you don't want to talk too much about COVID-19, but without doubt, that has impacted on work being carried out, both at county level, Yorkshire Water, utilities, right across the piece. We've got issues where things have been delayed, quite rightly so, because of staffing levels and everything else that goes with it. So it all depends to a degree, of course, and on whether that continues. So
Yeah.
I'd put that into the mix as well.
Okay, I think,
Thank you, Chairman.
yeah, I mean, that's fair comment. Just to recount that, and I can't remember exactly when this was, but there was a point during lockdown when I'd undertook to secure gap funding for the work, which I did, but that was hampered. I mean, I was hopeful of getting county council funding, but you know, it just wasn't possible to get arrangements. So I got the gap funding, but the boot was on the other foot, and it was the Environment Agency chasing me rather than me chasing the Environment Agency. So I think that does give some indication of the work that is going on within the EA to actually get on with the job. So I think, you know, that's all to the good. Can we move on to Bonaldswick, and not following the report slavishly, because there's one project that isn't mentioned, which I will start with. Excuse me, I'll start with this one because this is a momentous moment. The completion of works up Manchester Road, putting a culvert in along this line here, which was done earlier this year. And I remember going to see Maurice and Lena Farndale, that lived in this property back in the 1980s, in the middle of the night, when they were getting flooded because of the build-up of water. And it really is a marvellous moment when we find that, oh, sorry, I'm having to move a cat out of the way again, when we find that you know, a 40-year, and it's longer than 40 years, but a saga that has gone on 40 years, for my knowledge, has actually had the risk of flooding reduced to such an extent that these people can sleep easy in the beds in the knowledge that this new culvert will take the water flow. So, I mean, I'd just like to put on record as a committee that we thank our engineering section for pursuing this, for finally getting the work carried out, and you know, really giving our people a pat on the back for all the work that they've done. So I'm just going to have to now, come on. I'll take that off screen. And apologies for the meows, but I had to evict it. The report talks about the work at Gill Meadows, and this is a picture that Councillor Tom Whip took back in February, I think it was. So if I could just ask Tom to speak to how the scheme at Gill Meadows worked when we had flooding earlier this year.
Yeah, so the water level rose, as it always does, but it did to a level that was, you know, it felt safe. It never broached a level which felt uncomfortable to the residents, and you know, it had the best possible outcome that I think it could have had.
I've put up on screen there the culvert coming under Skipton Road, which was towards the end of the job. Clearly, it took a lot longer than we'd hoped, but that's because of having to dig through bedrock for most of the way, and at that point, it was reaching the deepest excavations, where I think the last inspection chamber, the big rings that they put in, was over 4 meters down. So that's been finished. It's working, and we can again not be as worried as we always have been about the risk of flooding from that area. There's a further item on the report, which you'll be pleased to know I haven't got a picture of, which is talking about the Cronest Industrial Estate. There is an improvement scheme drawn up, and that's waiting for flood modelling assent and land drainage consent. And the town council might be involved with that, because it involves some allotment land that the town council has, and the town council's agreed to that in principle. So as far as Bon Oswit's concerned, there is another issue, which is down Gisborne Road, and that's the problem with the culvert that goes under Gisborne Road, and then the water backs up and it affects properties just off Foster Road. So as part of the resolution, we want to reiterate our request to Lancashire County Council for them to upgrade that culvert under Gisborne Road in order to reduce the risk of flooding to properties upstream on several culverts that feed into it. And then there's one further point, which is outside our area, but it affects West Craven quite badly when there's a problem. And this is the flooding at Cross Gates in Blacko, and this is a picture that I took. I can't remember the date now, but it was in February, on return from a planning meeting in Birmingham for the Britain in Bloom finals, which was cancelled. But the Cross Gates is over here. This is an inspection chamber for a culvert that runs diagonally across the road to an outlet on the opposite side of the road. And you can see there, that's the fountain with the water surcharging out of this culvert and then flowing down the road like a river. And then that then collects and ponds across the road at the dip in the bottom, and many a car gets caught out with that, and it causes the road to be closed. And that's a responsibility of the culvert is a responsibility of the county council. It's a highway culvert. They've known about it for 3 years. They haven't done anything. It isn't in the capital programme, despite repeated requests, including ones from this committee. So again, within the resolution, I'd like to see us including a very strong request to Lancashire County Council that they deal with this highway culvert, and indeed others in West Craven which are in need of regular routine maintenance and capital works to make them effective in draining the water. So that brings me to the end of that report. Can I ask who else would like to speak? Mike, can I bring you in again?
Thank you, Chair. Just to say that I would support what you just said, and I'd be happy to second it if you're going to move that resolution of recording this with Lancashire County.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any further speakers, please?
No.
No. Okay. Well, thank you very much for that. So we're noting the progress that's been made. I think we need to include something about maintaining, monitoring progress by the Environment Agency on the major schemes. That's both phase 2 and phase 3. The resolutions, so far as Lancashire County Council are concerned, that we've just picked up on. And then could I suggest that we have a further report in, say, 6 months' time, say perhaps slightly less than 6 months, let's say 4 months' time, and try and get it to the December committee. And then we'll see how we go in with everything. Is that okay with everybody? Yeah. Okay, thank you very much for that. And now, if we do have anybody watching the meeting on YouTube, we've got a further item which concerns environmental crime, and given that it has details which is exempt information, likely to reveal the identity of an individual, we are going to move into a private session. So item 10 is the exclusion of press and public, and this is where we formally take the decision to exclude press and public. And then item 11 is the environmental crime. So would somebody move that we do exclude press and public?
Move that, Chairman.
That's moved and seconded by Councillor Carter. Can I see everybody in favour of that? You can just indicate, put your hand up. Yeah. Thank you very much. Right, so that is carried. Can I thank anybody that has been watching? And I dare say that we can have a look at the figures to see whether I've just been talking to myself most of the time. Oh, and committee members, of course. But if everybody has been watching, thank you very much. We are going to go into closed session now. So good night.